Everybody, welcome back to the new and improved, I guess, Trucking Exec Channel Part 2. We what I should do is probably provide a quick introduction. Hey Nick, how are you, man? Nick, you don't need an introduction, but for a few of the other guys that are in that might not be here, and I have no idea really what to expect on this live feed because obviously the channel got crushed. Frank, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what we're going to expect in here relative to the live feed, but I did want to address something. In fact, truthfully, I wanted to actually do this video about a month ago. Hey, Yukon, how are you, man? I want to address this about a few weeks ago. I couldn't as the channel was down. But the trucking, John, how are you? Trucking is changing, and so should you, right? So anybody that had followed my previous channel, what you saw in countless videos was talking about cost per mile. Spent a lot of time talking about deadhead and how that can be so detrimental to your business. I want to revise that video in this live feed, at least for the near term, and then I'll get to a few questions if you guys have some. Here's the thing. Previous video was probably back in February, March or so. We'll talk about how deadhead was so detrimental, could be to your business, how you need to know what your cost per mile is and that sort of thing. With rates the way that they are right now, there's two things that we've seen changing pretty drastically in the past couple of weeks. One, shippers are being held accountable, right? Shippers are being held accountable. I'll give you guys a case in point. We had a load today that was to pick up. Supposed to be picking up around noon. So look, I gave them that typical 3 to 4 hour window to get us in and out. As it turned out, we probably weren't going to get loaded until 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. That was a bad deal for us relative to the driver, his hours, etc. But it gave us the opportunity to go back to the broker and say, hey, look, this isn't what you guys told us. You guys aren't being honest. This load now has become a bad deal. And this is all about the honesty of the shipper or lack thereof. Maybe it was a mistake. At the end of the day, it ended up costing us, or would have cost us a lot of money. Within 15 minutes of looking, we found another load, I guess a little over 1,000 miles, I think it was 1,100 miles, paid about $5,600. So we dropped that load. We explained to them, look, if you guys aren't going to be honest, that's fine, not our fault. Now the tables are turning to where the carrier has the advantage. Shippers can no longer pull the nonsense that they've been pulling. Shippers can no longer tell you that you're going to load at 12 and it actually turns out to be 10 p.m. It doesn't work like that. Guys are going to be bolting because there's other loads that are paying really good. So that's one of the two ways I want to talk about in this video. Hold shippers accountable to what they say that they're going to do. And if you have the opportunity, again, I think there's a balance between trying to carry yourself in a professional manner. But if they're not going to hold up their end of the bargain, you need to find another way out. Rates right now are so good. If you guys are out running for 4 weeks straight, you could almost earn the same amount of revenue that it would typically take you to earn in 2 months. And you could do that in 1 month. So for those guys that have the opportunity to stay out and run a little bit longer, I would really encourage you to do that right now while the rates are the way that they are. So having said that, let's talk about deadhead for a minute. We have a load that we're going to take from the upper Midwest down to Florida. Pays really, really well. Pays really, really well. Enough. Yeah, Nick, hang on just a second. I'll address that. The rate paid enough that we were able to get down into Florida, deadhead all the way back up to Atlanta, 600 and some odd miles, and we were still averaging close to $250 a mile on all miles. So normally what I would have suggested, in fact I actually ran the numbers on this in a past video. Normally I would suggest that you, over the course of the year, you are better off to take that $1.20 a mile freight out of Florida up to Atlanta. In this case, with rates being $3, $4, $5, $6 a mile and more, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Hey Joe, how are you? It doesn't make sense to do that. In fact, Joe, I was just having a conversation about Joe Harding about 30, 45 minutes ago. Caslin, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so if rates just stay where they're at right now, you guys need to take a real serious look at deadheading. Don't waste half a day getting loaded, half a day getting unloaded, and the drive time on a short load to get out of a bad area, in this case, Florida. Get a good enough rate going in that you're going to average 250 or more coming out, including your 650 miles up to Atlanta. It's possible. Maybe you want to look at, Alabama. Maybe you want to look at the Carolinas. In this particular time, you can deadhead, save an entire day of running between your loading and your unloading. Go find a rate that's going to give you really good miles and a really good rate right now. Trucking is changing right before our eyes, and it really has been, honestly, since the summer. And we had a dip in late August, early September, and all of a sudden with the hurricanes, things have really kind of spiraled out of control again. Bottom line is, shippers are going to get a taste of their medicine, and I think they already are the past couple of weeks. They're going to get a taste of what it's going to be like when e-logs hits. Guys can't sit for 10 hours or 8 hours at a dock. They can't. They shouldn't. You're going to pass up $5,000, $6,000 on a run to sit there for 8 hours? Absolutely not. You could be halfway to that destination. You could have made $3,000, $2,500 on the amount of time it's going to take you to get loaded for 10 hours. That's ridiculous. And we just said there you come. Deadheaded 200 miles the other day for a load, still averaged 3 to 5 miles. There you go. That's what's going on. Joe, that's funny. It is a balance, John. It is a balance. What doesn't change about this channel, what will not change, is that 3-letter acronym, cost per mile. With rates being the way that they are, you can easily run around the country. You can easily deadhead a lot and still make good money. Take the time to know what your cost per mile is. Again, that message will not change on this channel. While trucking is changing, there's still business, kind of the business 101, if you will, that you have to take into consideration. Joey Wild, 5.5 hours. And Joey, here's the thing, detention rates, it's going to be interesting. In some recent videos I did on the other channel, I talked about having terms and conditions, contracts in place that prevent, or at least compensate you fairly for that 5.5 hours that you're sitting, right? I'm fine with giving these guys some time. I'm okay with 2 or 3 hours if you want to know the truth. But that's me, right? It's different for our drivers. Our drivers need to have some protection, and it's up to us to provide that via some terms and conditions. Right now, there is not a better time to make sure you're getting solid terms and conditions for the next 6 months or a year, because these guys need your truck. They need you to haul this freight. This is the time to get your terms and conditions in place for a 12-month time frame. They need it. They have to. Right now is your opportunity as a carrier, as a lease operator, as an owner operator, to make sure that you're doing that. If you miss that opportunity right now when rates are crazy, and maybe it gets better for us as a carrier, for you as a lease operator or an owner operator. But now is the time to get fair value for your time. And if you think about the amount of money that you can make in your 600-mile drive day, what's that equate to? And so for that gentleman that said he was sitting for Joey, I think it was, for 5.5 hours, how much did that just cost you if you would have been running? It's pretty significant. All right, Scott says, I have a body that did 900 mile, $5.60 a mile, was sitting and waiting to go for a load 8 hours, still didn't get it when this run came. Is that a good? Yes, that's a 560. Yeah, that's really strong, guys. There's some silly rates out there right now. There's some really silly rates. Let's see. Just learn the business. Caslin says just learn the business and save money for a down payment. Man, Caslin, you're right, and that's probably one of the things I preach most, is you've got to learn this business. And this business comes in at least 2 parts if you want to keep it at a really high level. One component, of course, is the trucking side, moving that truck, all that sort of stuff, right? The second piece is by far as critical, if not more critical, if you're on a lease operator or an owner operator type of deal, and that is the business side of it, right? And I apologize, looks like my phone is getting hot. So I'll cut this short. You've got to understand this industry. You've got to understand the business side, especially now when rates are the way that they are. If you don't know what your cost per mile is, it's really difficult to judge where you want to deadhead, where you want to go, how you're going to make your best money. Trucking is changing. It's changing before our eyes, and that's a cool thing to see. We'll see if it lasts over the winter. Nick, you had asked. Yes, rates typically drop pretty significantly. Probably in that $1.50, $1.70 per mile range right about now. October, this kind of time frame, it kind of peaks. We've got pumpkins that are going. We've got some seasonal stuff that are going in October. But yeah, I mean, rates typically tend to drop. Right now it's not. John says after Christmas, but I think this year is going to be a bit better than the last few. I'll tell you guys, in the last 2 years, January has been one of our best months. No kidding. Primarily for reefer, not for dry van, but for reefer, it's been one of our best. Steve-O says, I'm a new company driver. Goal is to run as an owner-operator. Am I crazy? Absolutely not. You're not crazy. If you're a new driver to the industry, plan on spending some time really understanding the trucking side of it. Then you want to get to the point where you're really also coinciding to your time learning trucking, learn the business side of it, and then you can absolutely be successful. Yeah, Nick, that's and $1.70 is probably high for a lot of rates, truthfully, in the winter. Joey says, agreed. Also, when you have loads booked ahead and have to scramble to make up time or lose the next load. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was the case on one of these loads I was referencing. Is we had a load that was going down to Texas, and we had just a couple hours before we got a reload. So the good news is the driver wasn't going to be sitting for a long time, right? They got empty and hour and a half drive, and they were getting loaded again. Bad news is when the shipper wants to take 8 or 10 hours, that just blows the timing all out of whack. Thanks, Britt. Appreciate it. Steve-O says, start learning what it takes your company truck. Absolutely, right? There's going to be a sweet spot. It's probably going to be somewhere around that 62 to 64 mile an hour range. Find it, right? Every truck's a little bit different. Every truck's geared a little bit different, that sort of stuff. The weight that you haul, make sure it's balanced. All that kind of stuff has a huge impact on your MPGs. When you get into the owner-operator game, fuel is going to be your most significant cost. So being able to manage that is going to be critical for you. It really is. Nick, that's why I'm such a pest when it comes to explaining to guys that they need to know their cost per mile, because what you just said is really key. There are times in this business over the past several years, every driver will tell you they're making money typically on pennies, not dollars. Right now, market's different, right? We're making money in dollars per mile, not pennies. Use this as an opportunity to stash your cash, right? Use this as an opportunity to put money back for your maintenance fund in case something bad happens. Use this as an opportunity to not go crazy with your lifestyle. Cash is king in any business, right? Cash is king. Do not forget that. This is an opportunity for some of you guys that want to go into the owner-operator space to potentially avoid the lease operator game long term. This is an opportunity for you guys to pile a bunch of cash, hold on to that until you fulfill your current lease. That way you can go become a true owner-operator and you're not under the thumb of another company. Most lease operators, not all, most are kind of a glorified company driver in some form or another. Some companies allow those lease operators to be more like an owner-operator, but not many. It's not the majority that's out there. It's not. Scott says the load came from Kroger that made him wait when the other load came knocking on his door. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really crazy to see how the shippers react when guys are sitting in the door after 3, 4, 5 hours, and you post your truck on a load board and you get a phone call for a load that's going to pay you $1,000 more for the same mileage. That's an hour down the road, and guys start pulling out of docks and leaving empty docks. It's going to be real interesting to see how those shippers behave. What I suspect is that the shippers are going to start to try to turn the tables back on the carriers, back on the owner-operators, and force them into really significant penalties to prevent you from doing that. What do? In the meantime, you send in your contract, your terms and conditions with the broker right now that says this is it. If I don't get loaded within X number of hours, I'm either getting this rate for detention so that you don't go chase that other load and post your truck so that you're taken care of for sitting. That's the best case scenario, right? You're not putting miles on your truck, but you're getting compensated well for it. That's the best situation. You're going to have to put in your contracts right now, and now's the time to do it, guys. It is absolutely the time to do it. There's been no better time in the past 3 years than right now. Steve-O says, I'm there financially, just not ready mentally. I feel I need to learn the business much more. Thanks for the tips. You're welcome. And if you feel that way, I tell you, go with your gut, because there is probably a lot of merit to that. The business side should be rather detailed. Captain Crunch says they were in a lease op hauling oversized, made good money, wanted to jump back into owner op. But listening to you, I'm going to wait until I get my own attorney. Sure, and I don't know if you're talking about attorney to review your contract. If you are, awesome. Or if you actually meant authority, get your own authority. Either way is probably a good way to go, truthfully. So, for sure. Small Fries in the house. That's one of our first drivers. For you guys that don't know, Charlie, welcome. Welcome to, this is like the skinny trucking exec channel. We're down about 5,500 subscribers, but hopefully we'll grow back. Guys, trucking is changing. This is a good opportunity if you're a lease operator or an owner operator. It's a good opportunity if you're a carrier, as a small fleet or medium-sized fleet. Some of the rates, if they stay consistent over the next several months, will allow companies to do things to take care of drivers. This is a good thing for carriers, right? It really is. It's a good thing for drivers. Make sure you're at the right company, whether that's company driver, lease op, or if you're an owner op, make sure you're working with the right brokers that are going to take care of you. Guys, that's it. What is it, 17 minutes? Let me see if there's a couple more questions I know back up. I'll grab those and we'll try to shut it down here in just a few. Let's see, if you want, Steve says if you want to take baby steps, try to get on with Snyder Choice program. So Steve, oh, I'm sorry, that was Caslin replying to Steve. So Caslin, that's probably, you're probably correct. That's probably a good baby step. But in my opinion, here's the thing. If you're going to become a lease op, as I've said in many other videos, the best scenario for you is to be at a company where you have the luxury, and it is a luxury, of choosing your own freight. Not from a company load board, certainly not from a dispatcher that's going to call you and just offer you 1 or 2 loads for you to accept or decline, and then you go back to the bottom of the list. Don't go there. Don't be there. I don't care how bad you want to be a lease op. Don't sign up for one of those companies. That's a really bad deal. You essentially have somebody else acting as the owner of your company, and that's typically someone that's paid $15 or $20 an hour. That's your dispatcher that is essentially acting as the owner of your company. You don't want that. That is a recipe for quick and expensive failure. How do you know a broker is lying? Their lips are moving. It's been that way in the past. We have relationships with a few that are really good. We have relationships with a few that know, and look, for those that followed my other channel, you know my stance on lying, how this industry is full of deceit, and it just makes me, I hate it. So we have a few brokers that understand kind of how we like to operate, and they're pretty good. But by and large, yeah. I posted something on my Instagram and my Twitter last night. If you guys are on either one of those, go check it out. There was a broker, I forgot the name of the company he was with, R2 Logistics, I think it was. And he made a comment that, yeah, rates are great right now, but hide and watch, basically is what he's saying. Well, you know, wait till your time is over. And it's like, it just kind of gives you an insight to how this particular individual felt. A local company where I'm at just jumped pay from 46 to 51.5. That will tell you how the rates are changing, and they are, right? So here's the thing: that's obviously a huge jump. It is local, so that's a little bit different. If the rates continue to increase, companies can do better things for drivers. And in my opinion, drivers are long overdue. I mean, you guys can go back and do the research yourself. My dad was a driver. For many that don't know, my dad drove for many, many years. And I think he was being paid, God, this is probably 40 years ago now, 20 some odd cents a mile. There are a lot of guys, there are a lot of companies that aren't a lot higher than that. I haven't talked to many lately, but last year I talked to a few guys that were being paid 25 cents a mile. That's pretty crazy. So if rates continue to improve, companies can do better things for their drivers. You bet. It's a good thing for the industry for sure. It takes a while to find good brokers. It is a two-way street. It is. Look, for all of us that complain about brokers, we deal with drivers. Again, we're a shipper. We have trucks that don't show up, right? And it's frustrating. It is really frustrating. So I know what it's like on that side of the fence, and it's really frustrating when a guy wants a load, but he's going to mislead and lie about it, and he'll show up 8 or 10 hours later. Those guys it's really easy, and brokers track, most brokers I should say, track carriers, and they know who does a good job and who doesn't. So if you're that guy that's kind of constantly be bouncing loads, chasing everything else, it might pay off for the near term, but long term that's a bad business model. You don't want to be in business trying to screw other companies. That's not a good way to go. No, Nick, not all will. Look, I'll tell you, this has been tough if you are a company and if you are a lease owner or operator. This has been a tough 3 or 4 years. It really has. And that's where this broker last night that was commenting was just getting lit up. He was whining about how rough his month has been. And I commented, it's been a rough 3 or 4 years for a lot of companies and a lot of drivers. So probably doesn't make sense to be whining about how rough your month is when brokers have been taking significant advantage. A lot of brokers, I should say, have been taking significant advantage of carriers and drivers for a lot longer than a month, right? For years. So, guys, trucking is changing, and know your cost per mile. That won't change. What should change is you should revisit looking at deadhead versus how I described doing it a few months back, because the industry is very different. Back then, rates were, $1.75 a mile on average on the load board. Now they're probably $2.75, again, all the way up to $5 a mile. How long this lasts, we don't know. Take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you while you can. As always, my opinion from this side of the steering wheel. Thanks for everybody jumping in. Smallest live feed ever, even from when I did my first one a while back. But nevertheless, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Stay safe.